Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Certainly the Saints fixing the offensive line is the biggest topic of conversation this offseason, save, of course, the quarterback position, which is always interesting. After drafting Taliese Fuaga in round one, thought it was a good opportunity to bring Jon Stinchcomb back onto the show, former Saint. Guy was a high second-round pick, number 37 overall in his own right, with tons of expectation when he came here. Of course, became a Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ. Jon's good enough to be with us here. Hey, Jon, thanks as always, man. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited about some football right around the corner.
I know, man. Well, the NFL is so good at the 12-month calendar, man. It never ceases. But I'd love your thoughts just overall for what you know from afar or near on Taliese Fuaga from what you can tell so far.
Sure. So after the Saints drafted him, I ended up pulling up some film just to familiarize myself with him some more. And I'm really excited. You talk about an athletic guy who he does not mind playing physical. And some of the film that I watched, he would absolutely punish some defensive linemen. So always excited to see that and excited to see what it looks like, because the Saints certainly need help up front.
Where would you put the state of the offensive line right now for New Orleans when you have really two known starters in McCoy and Ruiz?
Yeah, in flux, and it's certainly something that has been a strength in years past, and that's not the case this year. I've got serious concerns about Ramczyk's health and availability, especially long-term, because he's such a high-level player that you just hate to see him struggle with the health issues. But outside of that, obviously Trevor Penning, the Saints need him to make a real big jump from what we saw last year to what they need him to be able to do this year. And then, for Fuaga, he's actually walking into a pretty difficult situation because the Saints need him to be able to step right in and not have a significant drop-off. So I think as a Saints fan, we've been spoiled for years that it's been a position of strength, and I don't foresee that being the case this year.
Yeah. Jon, in your situation is comparable, right? You were a high second-round pick, number 37, and you didn't really become a starter until that 2006 season. Obviously, there was an injury in between. Can you just speak to how difficult, or what are some of the difficulties of making a transition, even from high-level college football to being a high pick and having early expectation?
Yeah, well, certainly that was a frustrating series of years for me. I felt like I was finally getting a pretty good shot at things and ended up tearing my patella tendon. So it was a pretty significant setback for me personally. But for all these guys, Trevor Penning specifically, the whole thing is to be able to develop whether you're on the field or you're not. And those practice reps are invaluable. I know for all high draft picks, you come in and you want to be a cornerstone of the organization, and when that doesn't play out exactly how you pictured, it can be frustrating. But the job at hand doesn't change, and that's to be as prepared as you possibly can be when your opportunity comes. And, for a guy like Trevor, we all knew that his book was, he's got a really high ceiling, but it's a raw product at the time. He's going to need a lot of time on task. And when you saw the injuries pop up in that first season, it was stunting his development. And then difficult situation for him in year two, because all that time that you're hoping to get to develop a player, you kind of lost because of injury, and because of necessity. He was thrust into the spotlight, and it was pretty apparent that he still needed more time to develop. So I'm hoping that the 12 months between when he was not ready and forced into the spotlight and when we'll see him next has been real pivotal in his development.
Yeah. Jon Stinchcomb's our guest. It's so interesting because I thought we were going to go down the path of Fuaga, and you took it to Penning, which I think is no, but I think that's really appropriate. And I can lean into you a little bit here. When did you feel comfortable, like you were ready to be an impact starter? Because it does maybe lend some credence, John, tell me if I'm wrong, to saying, yeah, it hasn't gone for Penning the way we thought the first 2 years, but the story's far from written. Like, you feel he can still be, he has the ability to be a starter on this team?
I think so, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's the matter of confidence, and you have to be able to match the skills. You know, it's not just confidence. You need to be able to have the skills that justify that level of confidence. But usually with young players, you know, some are rarities. We've had plenty. I think Jari Evans is a prime example of a guy that he was able on the fly to continue to develop his techniques and skills, but from day one came in and was able to play at a really high level. And I think those are rarities, specifically for offensive line and quarterback. There's other positions where, you know, you can kind of platoon them in there, running back, wide receiver, et cetera. You can find roles for guys. Offensive line's a little bit different. So there is still time for him to develop. As a matter of fact, I usually think that year 3 and 4 are the best indicators of what you got. There's still development for guys that whether they're playing or not, and this is a little bit of a crossroads for Penning. And you know, going back to Fuaga, he's a guy that, you know, the Saints need him to be able to step in and be game ready from day one, and that's whether he's ready or not. It's a necessity for them to be able to deploy him and get him out there. So it's a challenge for him. Obviously, fans have the highest of expectations and very little remorse that, you know, like, oh, I'm sorry you still need time to develop. That's not my problem. You know, if you go out there, the expectations, you're ready to go.
We need to win, bruh. Come on.
That's it, man.
What we talked to Taliese Fuaga's O-line coach last week from Oregon State. Guy coached him for 4 years. And he effectively said that the only reason he didn't play left tackle is because they had a veteran there ahead of him, and they wanted him on the field, so they played him on the right side, but he felt he could play either side. When you haven't played on the left side in 4 years, John, how difficult is that if they do try to cross-train him left-right? Because, you know, Loomis has said he's going to play tackle. That's all he would say, you know, just essentially ruling out that he move inside, but he's going to play one of the tackle spots.
Yeah, I mean, there is a transition. There is a muscle memory element to, you know, how you feel and how you set. But with that said, it just comes with reps and time. I think the bigger jump is from tackle to the inside position rather than from right to left. I don't see that being a big issue. And you're kind of hitting on a little bit of a soapbox issue for me, Matt, because so much is made about the left tackle being the premier position as if, you know, right tackle doesn't face the exact same personnel. The plays are still the same. You know, the old adage that, you know, you're protecting your quarterback's blind side is a little bit of garbage because it's field side and tight side. So if a quarterback is, you know, on the right hash, then most of the reads are to his left, which means the back of his helmet is facing the right side. So I don't think it's as big of a, you know, difference between the ask of what you are demanding of your left tackle from your right tackle, though compensation and storylines say much different. But you're also talking to a former right tackle, so I'm a little bit biased.
Hey, man, look, yep. LSU, the Saints also made Ryan Ramczyk the highest paid right tackle in the NFL. I mean, clearly there's value on both sides of the line of scrimmage. What would you say, John, like if it was interesting that you said the harder transition is moving inside, because there's certainly a possibility, I would think, if Penning can't play tackle, that they do what the Raiders did with Robert Gallery years ago, which is move him to left guard, where he played for a long time. Is that something you think could be a possibility for Trevor Penning this year?
Isn't that what happened with Andrus Peat? And we don't even have to look outside of the organization.
Great point.
There's plenty of guys. I think what we know about Trevor Penning is that he is physical and he likes to finish. And what I saw was, you know, some hesitancy, and he put himself in space, and all of a sudden he's reactionary, and you're like, golly, I know him to be one of the most powerful guys in the league. So to see him kind of caught off balance, Do I think he can transition inside? Yes. I think right now in his development, that might be a really good fit for him. I don't know what the coaches are going to do. You got to, they'll know their personnel a heck of a lot better than some former has-been looking from the outside. But I do know that he's a big, strong, powerful man, and that's what I'm looking for in anybody who's playing on the inside. And, having been next to two of the best to ever do it, Jari and Karl, I mean, those guys, you saw that when you've got power up front, it holds that pocket pretty firm, and you can ask less of your tackles when you do so. So do I think Trevor Penning can move inside and find a home there? Yes, absolutely.
Not bad for a has-been. Jon Stinchcomb, former Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ. It worked out pretty well for you, man. Hey, there's one other thing. If they do, we're playing hypotheticals, and we can do that in the media because it's fun. Let's say Fuaga plays right tackle, and they move Trevor Penning inside to left guard. So the one spot that you haven't filled yet is left tackle. Do you think veteran free agency for like an older player, maybe like as a one-year stopgap, David Bakhtiari, maybe someone like Donovan Smith, like would that make sense for a year as a stopgap as opposed to taking your lumps with Penning out there?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's certainly something that they're batting around just because, I wouldn't mind taking a lease on a guy for a year, knowing that it's not a long-term solution. If Penning is slotted as that left tackle, and I think it all hinges on the health and availability of Ramczyk first, and two, how quickly can you progress Fuaga to a point where he is play ready. So if you check both of those boxes, then you're trying to find a home at Penning as either the third tackle, rotational guy comes in as the extra big blocking tight end, or can you move him inside and try to get a little immediate return on your dollar as a starting potentially left guard, because that certainly isn't a position where you go, that's written in stone. At best, it's written in pencil.
Yeah, man. The worst case scenario here is that the Saints have a lot of questions on that line. The good news, I guess, is there's still plenty of time to figure it out. Jon Stinchcomb, always great to visit, man. We appreciate a couple of minutes. Thanks for the time and the insight.
Anytime, Matt. Enjoyed it. Who dat?
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.